Hey, welcome to the show. As you heard in the trailer, I'm taking on the MR340, a 340-mile race along the Missouri River as a very new paddler. After roping a friend into this adventure with me, mission number one was to secure a kayak. This step was the most paralyzing. There's a lot to know about selecting a kayak. Where will you be taking it? Will you be racing? Will you be doing endurance kayaking? Will you be on a lake, a river, an ocean? Before you pick out a kayak, you need to at least have a rough idea of the type of paddling you want to do. Otherwise, you'll spend a lot of money and wind up with a boat that really isn't right for the job. Fortunately for me, I joined a local paddling club and I started attending their winter social events. So I met some people, I was able to ask questions, and met people who ultimately were able to steer me in the right direction. So in Kansas City, we have a club called Paddle KC, and the founder, Christy, is the ultimate paddling enthusiast. Like, she seriously might be the biggest ambassador for paddling ever. The woman hosts so many events. Paddle KC hosts over 100 events a year, and Christy has been doing this, running this group since 2015. So not only is she putting on a lot of events and getting a lot of people into kayaking and paddling, she knows a ton of people, and her knowledge is so deep on like boats, paddles, just places to go. She spent a lot of time curating the perfect experiences and expeditions. So I was fortunate that we have this great club here in Kansas City. One of the events that Christy encouraged members to go on was Canocopia in Madison, Wisconsin in early March. It's hosted by Rutabaga Sports, and it's a giant paddling expo. There's all sorts of classes to take. I took one on how to choose a boat, another on how to choose a paddle, and how to do a proper forward stroke. I also went to a Fitness for Paddlers course and learned how to pack my kayak for kayak camping. Okay, I didn't even know kayak camping was a thing, but it was super cool, and I cannot wait to go kayak camping now. There were also classes for people who wanted to do adventure trips, or for people who wanted to learn more about the birds that they would see in certain rivers or in certain parts of the country. One thing that I really enjoyed there, though, was seeing people from all walks of life, all ages, all fitness levels, gather in one place to share a love of being on the water. Whether that's fishing or kayaking or stand-up paddleboarding, canoeing, they had classes for everyone, and there was a boat and a product for everyone. It was seriously super cool to see this many products all in one place and to have people who are teaching courses in all of these areas. There's a massive expo there, and in Kansas City, we have almost no boat dealers for kayaking and paddleboarding and things like that. So this was an opportunity for me to sit in boats and see how they feel. What's the seat like? How much back support is there? What about my legs? Could somebody who's really tall ride comfortably for hours? How does a smaller person fit inside that boat? Is it easy to adjust the foot braces so that I can change my position? All of these things, quite honestly, are things I didn't know I needed to think about until I started sitting in the boats and realized just how differently they each fit. So there were tons of boats there that you could sit in and try out. They had life jackets and shoes and paddles and all sorts of camping gear. And I looked at a bunch of things, but I didn't want to make a decision while I was in Madison. Being from Kansas City, I mean, we're not exactly a small town. I really thought I could just walk into a store and find all this stuff. So I left Canocopia with a life jacket and a list of things I wanted to buy. But another really cool thing happened while I was there. Christy from Paddle KC found me on the showroom floor on the last day. I was sitting in a kayak that I loved. I was certain this was my favorite. And she takes tons of groups on trips along our area lakes and rivers. And she said that the one I picked out does not handle as well as others for these types of excursions. She said that the one I was looking at didn't turn very well. And so she had me follow her across the showroom to the Dagger booth. Now, I had already been to the Dagger booth, and I wasn't a super fan, but that was because I hadn't actually talked to a salesperson. I didn't have somebody sit me down in the boat and show me how to adjust the boat that I was in so that it would fit me perfectly, so it would feel like it was tailored to my body. Peter, who was manning the Dagger booth, got me all set up, and I knew the Dagger Stratos was the boat that I wanted. It's long enough at 14 and a half feet to be an okay boat for the MR340, and it navigates easily so I can keep up on our local paddling excursions. While I was in the Dagger booth, though, something else cool happened. Danny from NRS stopped by. I had already been to a few sessions that Danny taught, and I talked to him after one of the sessions. I am only 5 feet tall, so he gave me his card and told me to contact him when I was ready to buy a paddle, and he would coach me through the process, make sure that I had the right paddle to match the kayak and the type of kayaking that I was going to do. Again, who knew? Who knew there was so much to know about paddles? I'll save that story for another day, though. Anyway, so Danny shows up at the Dagger booth, and before I know it, I'm ping-ponging between the NRS booth and the Dagger booth. NRS sells paddles, PDFs, life jackets, shoes, hats, SPF shirts, pretty much all the gear that you're going to need other than the kayak. At the NRS booth, Danny helped me pick out a life jacket. Then he sent me back to Peter to make sure I was comfortable in the boat in that PDF. It was super fun, and I felt like I had true experts guiding me as I selected some of my most important gear. But all I bought that day was the PDF, and that was my biggest regret of the weekend. There's just so much value in trying on and testing what you're going to buy. And even though we have an REI in Kansas City, one right down the street, I can buy most of these things and have them delivered to my house or to my local store. Even they don't have the in-store selection when it comes to trying things on. Now, we also have a Dick's and a Scheels and a Bass Pro Shop and some other places, but that's what we have. That's the extent of it. And so that was lesson number 1. If you ever have a chance to go to Canoecopia, it's spelled like Canoecopia, or another expo where you can sit in boats and try on paddles and learn from a bunch of experts, go, go, go. Part of what held me back from making that purchase was that I didn't already have a roof rack, which meant it would be a challenge to transport my new kayak back to Kansas City. In the next episode, I will share how I'm hauling my boat. I should mention again that I'm only 5 feet tall, so it was important to figure out how to load my boat myself. I am definitely height challenged, and so this has been a big struggle for me. That is the story about how I found my boat. I will catch you next time. Make life an epic adventure.